Welcome to another episode of Kingdom Conversations. We are so excited that you decided to tune in again. So once again, we say thank you, and we are about to have another amazing episode with Andrea, Carla, Gwen, and Zanalis. So this week we're going to talk about something that impacts the community, and has had a major impact on the community, and that's mental health. But before we get into that, we just gonna have a little small talk. So
could we start with this shirt here?
Right.
My husband is dope.
Yes.
Well, he is.
That's it.
Well, he is. See, that's how you big him up.
Yes.
Yes.
Big him up,
He
big
is
him up.
worthy of this shirt.
That's
Definitely. He treats me well. And I'm not talking about
Look at
material.
her. Look at her getting her brownie points. Look at
yeah,
her.
exactly.
Look, I want him to see it like, oh.
What you about to ask her when you get
Come on. But see, and that's the thing. It's not material too.
Right.
Like when I was telling the gentleman, it's not even material. He's just a good man. You know what I mean? And
That's good.
I'm so glad I waited for him.
I know that. You know what?
He was
If I
waiting for
if I had something, I'd just throw it on you.
Wait,
Right.
where's that yellow shoe for the
Right.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
That's what's up, though. You know what? But here, I respect that. And here's the thing: so many women just don't give their husbands the credit and the acknowledgement that they need. Our men work hard,
Yes, they
and
do.
life is rough
Jesus.
on them.
Yes, it
Just
is.
because they don't show their emotions and
Yes.
they may not express it, we need to recognize that life is rough for them. Especially-
being married to me. I'm just,
I mean, we
just
we
saying.
say we keep it real. Yeah. We could possibly be part of the
Yes.
pressure and the
Right,
issue.
right.
Yeah, we could.
I definitely no. I think we are.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think definite. But we have to keep our I was having a conversation about that, and it's a good man. Now, granted, we have the men that do not treat their wives well. But when you have a good man, and this is something I have to keep being reminded of, is to treat him well, and not beat him down when he comes in. Let him have his space. My husband, he has to do what he has to do for a good 5-10 minutes. Give him his space. Keep the baby out of, and because they go through so much out there, and they're being good. They're coming home. They're providing for us. And we're not, and I could be guilty of this as well, but not celebrating them and not being that sanctuary when they come home, instead of complaining or asking, did you do this or you didn't do this right?
One thing I love about what you just said, and it's something that just went over everybody, he came home.
Facts.
He came home.
Right.
I don't have any little ones anymore. It's just me, him, and my Shih Tzu. But I mean, sometimes he'll say she greeted me better than you did. Because she be just jumping and just happy and everything. So sometimes I have to do that.
Right.
I be just push her to the side,
be
like
doing
stop
it too.
showing me off. Right.
She's
right.
training you.
Right. So yes, that's one thing. Like you say, he come home.
Right.
That's something big, and that he wants to come home.
And there's chicks out there waiting for us to drop the ball,
Absolutely.
so.
And I try to tell people, y'all better get up and start making this coffee and this breakfast and lunch in the morning.
And it's a good
Right.
man.
Right.
Handling his business.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
Because
Yes.
handling his business.
Handling it.
Because that, if they're not good, they're not handling their business. Now, that's the thing there. They're not handling their business. I do believe that you, as a woman, wife, still need to do your part. Even sometimes when they're not doing theirs. But the appreciation that you're showing your husband because he's doing what he's supposed to
Right.
do needs to be acknowledged. Needs to be. For some of the others, I'm gonna turn this way to the side for a minute here.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, remember, we were having a meeting and I was like, girl, give me a second. I gotta make sure dinner's prepared.
Oh my gosh, that was so
my
funny.
husband's gonna be home soon. So, I mean, I love cooking, but, you know, in all honesty, I guess I'm old fashioned. I believe, you know, in trying to have it, you know, have a meal prepared and, you know, serving him when I have the energy. But yeah, I actually enjoy doing it. I really enjoy being able to do that. So yes, ladies, pay attention when your husband come home. Don't just bombard him from the time they walk in the door. You know, give him some time to just relax and just, you know, give him a few moments, because I know a lot of times, you know, sometimes it's just excitement, but a lot of times it's nagging. So cut that out.
Right.
They don't like that.
I won't be having meals for you when you come. I really don't.
Oh,
We're gonna work on that.
Listen,
Right.
now, okay, I have food, right? But see, with practice and all that stuff, so it might not be a 3-course meal. Like, but we do come up with a schedule where he actually cooks sometime. Like, cause we're both coming from a long day, and he has a designated night that he cooks on Monday, and then I cook on Friday, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is football practice, so it's just whatever, it's pizza or whatever.
Even with my husband, we have a schedule too. Like Monday might be sandwich, you know, because if I cook something big on Sunday, it might actually be leftovers for Monday, and you know, we just break days down and everything. But we're not saying to be perfect, you know, but like with my daughters, I tell them, you know, if you're like my husband, he would get up 4 o'clock in the morning. So because I don't want him to go to the diner, and I don't want them to know how.
You don't want Flo to be making this
I don't want. Right. I get up and I'll fix him his breakfast, you know, and his lunch. And as soon as he walk out, I'm back in the bed, you know. But I try to at least do that. That when, you know, if he's just thinking like, wow, my wife got up, and it's times I'll be wanting to roll over but again, I don't want nobody making his scrambled eggs.
Well, I want to be like that. So let me ask you now: when the kids were younger and at home, you did that then too?
I did that then.
All right,
too.
I'm gonna try it.
Right, and that's all they know. That's all they know is like that's just what but now, mind you, I was a stay-at-home mom, so I just want to let, even though it's still work dealing with the kids and everything, I was still a stay-at-home mom. And when I did work, I did do it too, but that was just something my mother that was just taught down, you know, just watching my mom like, wow, I want to do that too, you know. So now he's spoiled, because if I miss a day, it'd be like,
What's going on?
It's a problem.
Are you feeling okay?
Right. Yeah, try it. And I'm telling you now, listen, you gonna be really shouting that T-shirt out though, because he gonna be like, wait, what's going on?
I am, because he deserves that. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
he kisses me every morning before he goes to work.
See?
So that wakes me up anyway.
Right.
I'm gonna be awake before he even has to do that.
Even if it's a sandwich or something, just, you know.
And listen, what I do know is your husband does love
coffee.
coffee.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, you don't want nobody making his coffee.
You right. I was doing it.
Right.
You know.
We got to cure it. You know,
Listen,
we're like,
I'm gonna need that.
right.
Yeah, I'm gonna need him to smell that.
Set it.
Yeah, set your time a little, like 5 minutes before he wake up.
This
Let him
dude
smell.
get up at like 5.
That's
I was
okay.
doing it.
It's all right. It's all right.
He deserves
He
it.
right.
He deserves
Since
it.
it's a cure, you just have the cup in there, the little Keurig cup in there
Ready
from the
to
night
go.
before, ready
Right,
to go.
that's
Listen,
it.
you could be half asleep, push the
Jump
button.
out with one
and you
eye.
good to go.
One eye. I have cooked his breakfast with one eye.
I would do it.
Yeah.
You gonna do
Start
it.
with
do
just
it.
the coffee for right now. Start with just the coffee, you know. And see what
I
happens.
am.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
This was a
Deserves
great
it.
dialogue. You know what's great about it is, how long have you been married?
17 years.
And how long have you been married?
21.
And I've been married 17 years. So the great thing about this conversation is that you can see even 17 years later, 20 years later, we're still learning. We're still
learning.
trying to do our best.
Future.
And for right,
For my
Listen,
Boaz.
I won't listen. I'm
Boaz.
gonna leave you out now. I'm not gonna leave you out.
For Boaz, she knows, you know what, these are the things that I need to consider to do when I find my
Right,
Boaz.
right.
Yes. So it doesn't matter how long you've been married. You've got to keep things fresh. You got to keep it going. So we just gave you ladies some ideas on
Yes,
how to make
for
your
free.
husband.
We gave
Yes,
them
yes,
information
for free. How to make your husband just a little happier
Yes.
at home.
Well, we'll go back to the topic because I got something I want to ask y'all about. But we you know, I don't want to take too much time.
We're gonna get back there. We're gonna
Yeah,
get back
yeah,
there. But you know, I mean, it kind of, you know, it kind of leads into our next discussion because we talked about, you know, our husbands coming home and feeling beat up and feeling stressed and, you know, dealing with all the stuff that they have to deal with out there in the world, especially as, you know, men of color, you know, African American men. The weight and the burden is just even heavier on them because of all that they have to deal with. I mean, literally just walking out into the street has become a life-threatening situation for them. So they really do need to come home to that peace and to that solace when they enter their homes. But that sanctuary. Yes, absolutely. So yeah, we're going to transition into, like I said, a topic that is a very serious topic, and it's mental health and how mental health is impacting us. So the question that I pose is it okay to have Jesus and a counselor? That's the question for today.
Absolutely.
Can we have Jesus in our life and have a counselor at the same time?
Right.
We're going to talk about that. Before we get to that, though, let me just give you some statistics on mental health in the United States. Nearly 1 in 5 U.S. adults experience some form of mental illness. One in 5. 1 in 24 has a serious mental illness. 1 in 12, that's 8.5%, has a diagnosis of substance use disorder. So that's, you know, with drugs, alcohol. Of the adults in the United States with mental health disorders in a 1 year period, 14.4% have one or more disorders. That's a lot going on. 6% have 3 or more. Yes, some startling statistics. Half of all mental health disorders begin at age 14.
Wow.
That's scary. And 3/4 by age 24. So what that's saying is, more than likely, if you are going to develop a mental illness by the age of 14, the majority of people have already developed it.
Wow.
Yes, 50%. And by 24, 75% of people have already developed a mental illness. 14. Yes. In the United States, only 41% of people who had a mental illness disorder in the past year, and these are recent statistics from 2019, so this would have been done in 2018. So in the United States, only 41% of people who had mental disorders in the past year received professional health care or other services. So although we have people that are suffering from mental illness, people aren't seeking treatment. So what exactly is this mental illness? What are mental disorders? What does that mean? So mental illness is pretty much anything that causes a significant change in your thinking, your emotion, your behavior, distress and problems functioning in social, work, or family activities. Basically, you know, especially a serious mental health disorder prevents you from functioning to your full capacity. So it's a serious issue. It's a very serious issue. One that, like I said, impacts us tremendously. So what's the problem? What's the problem? One, you know, why aren't people seeking help for mental health issues? What do you think the resistance is?
They don't know they have it.
That's one, but I think also if they feel that they have something, there is a stigma aligned with that, and you know, something can't be wrong with me. There's this thing about being crazy, or even seeking out the help of a counselor. And especially in our community, that's just you. You don't go to the psychologist. You don't go to the psychologist.
But it's psychiatrists and therapists, right? I mean, are they both the same, or
There's different levels
This-
and degrees
because
based
one is able to prescribe medication and the other one pretty much helps balance, your life out. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much, yes.
Okay.
I mean, when I went and started with my therapist, I actually went on the premise, I'm happy, I'm loved, I don't have any issues that I can say, but I wanted someone to help me with everything going on as a mom, as an entrepreneur, as, an employee, an employer. With all that going on, I want someone to help me balance all of that, because if not, I'm going to go crazy and I'm just going to snap and I'll die. I feel like I would, if I don't get help, then I'll have a heart attack, a stroke, or I'll just go crazy, and I'm not any good to anybody else if I don't have that balance, that someone to help me to balance. And that was the premise that I went on, and she helped me to discover a lot of stuff about myself and why I operate the way that I do. I do everything. It's a control thing. It's it's a people pleasing thing. So I honestly, I would say everybody should, especially a woman
Right.
that has a lot going on. I would recommend that any woman go see someone to help balance all that out. And I'm not taking the spirituality out of it. And I know that there's prayer, but I also think it's wise there's people in place. There's doctors for a reason. You know what I mean? So that's why I go.
And I know of someone also too, she said when she goes to see her therapist, she just found out her therapist was a pastor, but her therapist never told her because she didn't want it to be where whatever they say they're going to be convicted because of them being a pastor. So, that's something, because she knew how to balance and separate the two, so that got to be hard though, being a pastor and a therapist, and how do you separate the two?
They try to come from a neutral place.
Right.
Kind of leans into the spiritual.
Right.
I mean, well, there's also different types of counselors. So you may actually decide that you want to go to a counselor that actually, is spiritually connected, that a Christian counselor. So, of course, if you go to see a Christian counselor, of course, they're going to combine, their spirituality and their beliefs, as well as, I would hope, a sound counseling technique to be able to provide you what you need to provide. But when you go to see a counselor, it's really about bringing balance to your life. I mean, that's what you want. You want the balance. If it's mental health, again, when we're dealing with mental health, we could be talking about something as simple as that kind of low depression that you talked about, where you just, where you're not feeling good, you just kind of feel out of it for the day. That could be, a mild, very mild form of depression. But then there are people who suffer from clinical depression, which is a depression that lasts for an extended period of time and has a major impact on your life to the point where you can't function. Now, if you're dealing with that kind of depression, that's when you need to go seek help. We all can deal with, like I said, we get a little depressed, something's not going right, we feel a little bit down. But when you find that months have gone by and you are still in that same place, it is really important that you go and you begin to seek help. So one of the issues that I want to talk about is, why do you think there's been so much of a stigma, specifically with the church and mental health? I mean, I've heard some crazy things like, don't take that medicine, you just need to pray. I've heard, mental health being compared to just, evil spirits being in someone. So, I mean, why do you think that is? And two, how do we begin to overcome those challenges?
So I think that first and foremost, if it was as simple as you just need to get those spirits out, the statistics speak for themselves right there. So there has to be more than that. There has to be more that's aligned with that. Now, it's in the scripture, I know it talks about getting counsel. Okay, and I think that is how we evaluate the scripture, that God provides counsel for us and counselors for us. He does put people in these positions to be able to help us through our problems. And how we look at the word, we shouldn't just take the word as if, okay, because we have God, we're not going to have any issues and every problem is just solved like that. I can also speak from a personal point. I went through depression, and knowing that I was going through what's a clinical depression. Now, I sought help. I'm a Christian. It didn't change, as far as I'm concerned, it didn't change my relationship with God because I went to get help. I needed help. And there wasn't the laying on of hands and the praying. Yes, you still pray, but at that moment, at that practical time, you don't want to hear, I'm praying for you, or you'll be okay. Just cheer up. Don't forget about it. Don't think about it. That's right. Give it over to the Lord. He'll take care of you. He'll bear all your burdens. I knew that. Yes, I know that God bears my burdens, but what do I do right here, right now, where I am, when I don't feel like I can make the next step, when I'm staying in bed for days, when I can't function to go or don't feel like going out, when it really feels like the light is out?
Absolutely.
I don't know, again, maybe y'all might tell me something different, but just growing up in church, I find that majority of them are depressed. In the church, you find more depression in the church, and like we was talking on the last segment about how we cover it up, but even when I spoke about, I was on the praise and worship team, I was, taking care of leadership and just doing everything, but yet go home, close my shades, and don't want the sun to shine, don't even want it, I just wanted to just stay in darkness. And can I be real with you? It was a time where I'm not even a drinker. I'm not a drinker, but then it was a time where I would leave from church and get a drink. Wow. Just to forget. I just want to be honest, but it's just, more, I find more depression. Thank God I am delivered. Amen. But
okay, so how did that happen? How did that depression transition? How did you transition? How did you go from that place to a new place?
It was a process, but I had to do more self-inventory for myself. Now, I wasn't introduced to a therapist. Actually, when I went to go see one, I'm gonna be very honest with you. When I went to go see one, I never forget how the room was set up and everything. It was just dark, and he began to talk to me, and I began to talk, and he said, well, you know what, I can't help you.
Oh, wow.
He said, I'm not even gonna bill you. He said, because what you need is spiritual guidance. But what if my issue is from the spiritual people? I mean, I'm just be honest. It was like 5 minutes. I just go to talking and crying, and he was just like, I can't help you.
Wow.
Just stop. He was like, you just need someone spiritual. And I'm just like, at this point, my trust, like, I don't want to, because they might look at me some kind of way if I begin to share my issues and whatnot. And I walked out not even getting help.
So how'd you get your help? What?
I'm gonna honestly tell you it was through praying, but I had to go through a lot. I'm not gonna say it happened overnight.
Right.
It took a long time. And now I can say, you know how you have the portion plates? You know, that's how I base my life. Now, on the portion plate, they say you can have a lot of vegetables, right? Sometimes that's my family. I give them a lot of time. And then sometimes it's my business. I give them a lot of time. Now, everything on my plate right now, I want to eat. But if you put some beets and you put carrots on my plate, yeah, you mess up everything.
But they
so,
good for you.
No, but you're understanding. Like, if I put anything on my plate that I really don't want to eat, then that messes up everything on my plate. So I have to remove it. I have to keep it off because every now and then the beets try to come. And you know what beets do? The juice spreads.
Wow.
It spreads.
Wow, that's
right,
good.
right. So I have to be careful what I put on my portion because right now, everything on my plate I want to eat. So that's what I had to teach myself, that I have to portion control my life.
That's good. You know what?
Yeah.
I forgot who was speaking, but the word that came to my mind was balance.
The
That's it.
Carla was
That's
talking
it.
about that.
Yes.
Balance.
Yeah.
Balance
Your
is so
balance.
key to our lives, you know. But when we are out of balance and out of whack, you know, to say really literally like we just feel like everything is going wrong, we really need to get to a place where we can seek help. And so I just want to encourage people, you know, to find that one person, you know, to find that friend, to find, you know, if it's not your pastor, you know, if it's not your sister, there's got to be someone out there. And if it's not, you know what, it might mean, you know, seeking professional help. It might mean, you know, making a call to a hotline. But you have to deal. You have to deal with the issue.
Pastors now committing suicide.
That's
and
true.
it's,
It's serious.
a lot.
Yes.
It is a serious issue. I do have a background in mental health. I actually have a master's in mental health counseling. So I spent a little bit of time counseling. I did actually a lot of marriage counseling. And what I realized is I didn't like it. That was the BS. I didn't like it. And I'm going to tell you why I didn't like it. I'm very solution focused.
Okay.
Solution focused meaning that, listen, here's the problem. Let's work to solve the problem. But what I found was that
They want to do the work.
they didn't want to do the work.
Right.
And other than not wanting to do the work, they were only coming to hear you're right. Like they were coming because they believed that their perspective was the correct perspective, and so they were going to prove the other spouse wrong. So you're already coming in with the wrong intention and motives, so it doesn't work.
That was me one time. That was, I'm going to be
wanted that
honest with you.
validation?
I
You
was
want that client?
Wait a minute. What I did was, you know, me and my husband, we was just clashing and everything. And I went to the Christian bookstore, like, I'm going to find something that's going to tell him everything he did was wrong. Everything. Picked up this book and said, you know, a praying wife for a husband, right? So, for your husband. And I pick up the book and I'm like, yep, it's about to tell me. I opened it, I was like, no, I don't like that page. No, I don't like that page. Because it told me everything I was doing was wrong. So yes, that I was one of them.
So, I mean, I give that example, but even, you know, even when you go to see your counselor in mental health, the bottom line is you've got to be open. You've got to be open and you've got to be willing to do the work. You've got to be willing to dig deep and really figure out, you know, what's causing these issues, what's the problem. I mean, we've spent time talking about depression, but there are people who suffer from anxiety.
Yes,
You know, anxiety is a serious issue, you know. There's people who suffer from PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. And, you know, when we think about or hear about post-traumatic stress disorder, we think about somebody, who's been in the military or someone who's, had this horrendous life. But really, post-traumatic stress disorder could come about any, from any traumatic situation occurring in your life. So listen, it's serious. So one of the things I encourage is that we begin to recognize the signs. As you mentioned about the pastors who are taking their lives, I'm like, wow, did everyone miss the signs?
Right.
You want to look for those changes in behavior. Somebody who was usually upbeat and, always laughing and joking, and then all of a sudden, weeks and months are going by and they're just not themselves. They want to stay in the house. They don't want to do anything. That when someone is suffering from mental illness, if you're paying attention, you will see the signs. So one of the things I want to say is that we need to start paying attention to the signs. Pay attention. Pay attention, okay? You've got to pay attention.
Yes.
The other piece, in terms of the church piece and, why we seem to struggle as Christians with mental health, this is what I want you to understand. Mental health, disease, or disorders. It's no different than any other disease or disorder that someone would get.
It has to be treated.
If I have high blood pressure, you're not going to tell me just go home and pray.
Right.
You're going to tell me that I need to take my Lasortin, which I take.
Yes.
Yes. You're going to tell me,
It
you know
has
what?
a name.
It has a
Right.
name. Go and take it. You're not going to just say, I'm going to pray for you. Let's understand that mental health is a real health issue. It's a real health epidemic. And so we need to look at it from a different perspective so that people don't have to worry about the stigma when they're suffering from it. That's why people are afraid to talk about it. Because they're still afraid that people are going to look at them like they're possessed or something's wrong with them. In reality, they have a disorder or they have a disease. And we need to treat them just like we would treat anybody else that is suffering from a health issue. Listen, there's a couple of hotline numbers that I have available, and I just want to get it to you. There is a website. It is www.linesofhope.org. This seems like an awesome organization. They provide a variety of counseling services. The hotline phone number is 1-800-273-8255, and we'll be sure to also post that in case you missed it. But they have a suicide lifeline. They also have a line for drug and alcohol. They have a specific line for teenagers. So it seems like a really good organization that provides a variety of services to people who might be struggling with addiction to talk to. Don't suffer in silence. There's someone out there that is willing to help you. So listen, we hope that this episode was helpful. We thank you for tuning in. Once again, like always, we remind you to like, to comment, and to subscribe, and make sure you hit that notification bell. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Kingdom Conversations.